Hello, welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name's Carl King, and today we're going to be looking at newly arrived Kickstarter with a bit of an unboxing and a sort of general overview of the contents of The Thing by Pendragon Games. This is a fully licensed game by Universal Studios based around John Carpenter's iconic 1982 film The Thing, and also the more recent sort of prequel to The Thing, showing how The Thing got to be where it was, based on the story from the Norwegian ice station perspective. So there are models for both sets of characters from both the first film and the second film, which obviously, as I say, was then made as a prequel. So we've got both of those. As you can see, I've got both of those DVDs. Certainly the first film is one of my favourite films. Watch it quite regularly. So yeah, let's get into an unboxing of The Thing. So we've got a nice rule book here. Quite chunky. We'll be having a bit of more of a deep dive into that as we go along through the video. So we'll just put that to one side for the minute. We've got an extra module sheet which just adds in some extra items, double items and extra items into certain decks to give you a bit more sort of replayability and variability into the game. And then on the back of this sheet it gives you a breakdown of what those cards, or some of the cards in the game, actually will do for you. Some of them will give you extra sort of benefits to your actions, and then one of the cards does absolutely nothing. It's completely useless, and sometimes that is the case. You're looking around for things maybe at home and you're trying to do certain jobs, you just find stuff in drawers completely useless. So I think that's quite a nice touch. First time I've ever really seen that in a card deck, to be honest. I can't remember any other game that I've played where you pull a card and it does nothing for anybody. But yeah, that's quite a nice little touch, really. We'll put that to one side. Then we come on to some of the card stock of the game. So here we have some of the sort of punch boards, and as you can see they are double-sided, and very nice colourful artwork. We've got some standee figures here, so if you buy this game retail and you don't buy a version with miniatures, or you got that version through Kickstarter, the standees are quite adequate. I don't mind playing with standees. I've played with them in some games and they're okay. They're all nicely done. They all depict the people and characters and the actors who were in the original film, so that's quite good as well. That's a nice touch, but with a licensed game you wouldn't probably expect anything less. Again, another set of punch boards. You've got some laboratory tokens here and some other sort of thing tokens, and then on the back of those laboratory tokens you've got these blood bank car symbols. And these ones, if they are the green ones, then you get to place that on a character sheet, and then you can turn over that character's card to see if they are human or if they have been infected and actually a thing. And then the black ones mean that your blood tests have failed and you can't allocate them to anybody, but then whatever you get of those, they are discarded, so they don't go back in the bag as far as I'm aware, and from seeing sort of for the odd playthrough. We've got the game board here, but I'm going to put that to one side and we'll show you that in more detail a little bit later in the video. Then we come on to what's in the box itself, and I have to say I did open this box previously and sort of took wrappers off the cards and things because they can be a bit fiddly. The Kickstarter said it was going to be a custom made insert, and it certainly is, but to be honest I'm not really enamoured with how it's sort of being done. We've got, you know, a big area here just to sort of dump stuff in. There's a couple of three sort of card deck holders, another one hidden under these. It's not, to me it's not great. I think it would have been better if there'd have been two, maybe two smaller ones, not quite as deep, and then spread out a bit, so perhaps one for the cards and then one on top for tokens and other bits and pieces, because they are quite chunky bits and pieces of tokens and models and things in here as well. I'm just hoping that maybe my thoughts will change once I sleeve the cards and try and get them in. Hopefully they have thought about it. It does look as though there's space either side for the cards to sort of rattle around and have sleeves on, so hopefully that's gonna sort of up my opinion of it. But at the minute it's not one of my favourite inserts that I've ever seen in a game box. But to be honest, I've looked at everything else that's come with the game. The miniatures are fantastic, and I'll show you those shortly. So if this is the only thing that I can really have any sort of negative thing to say about any of the production, then it's not too bad. But I would have potentially liked it, and also a bit more robust. But anyway, let's get back to showing you bits and pieces from the game. So here we've got your character cards, and again they depict a picture of the character and actor from the film. So you've got each of those from the main and original film. So you've got 3, 5, you've got 8 there of those characters. These are the leaderboards, and one of these is used when you are playing sort of a solo or up to 3 person game, I believe, and the other one is used when you're playing from 4 to the maximum, which is 8 players. You will always start with at least one player who is infected. So basically, out of those tokens that I showed you on the punch boards, you flip those over, everybody takes one of those tokens or is dealt one of those tokens, and nobody shows anybody who they are. It will reveal whether they are human or an alien, and then you will select your card based on what that token tells you. You'll place that card on your player board, and then when those tests are done, as I showed you those blood bank tokens, if it shows that you are tested, and you have to reveal whether you are then a human or an alien, and once you are revealed as an alien, or anybody is revealed as an alien or is infected, then that adds an extra sequence into the turn sequence. There is a sequence, I think sequence 3 in the turn, and that only happens if there is a revealed alien in the party. Once the alien is revealed, that happens every turn. Prior to that, you skip it, and the alien obviously goes about its business, as in the film, to try and sort of sabotage the base and assimilate as many people and dogs as they can, and try and obviously get away on the helicopter to civilization to infect the whole planet, which you're trying to stop as per the film. So we have some more cards here, and these are the sort of like accessory cards, or sort of weapons and bits and pieces that you can get, including extra food, food for the dogs, which will then sort of tie them up and stop them doing certain things, fuel for flamethrowers, toolboxes, extra laboratory things, bits of pipe that you can use as weapons, and also it will stop you being scanned or having your blood tested. And then these ones at the back here are those 4 cards which I said earlier. Those are the ones that basically are useless, and you've just found a load of rubbish in a drawer somewhere. Just like at home when you're looking for a battery or a light bulb, you find all sorts of stuff that you didn't realise you'd kept and you don't really need anymore, and it's not any good to man or beast, including aliens. So we've got those. We've got other packs of cards here, and these are cards which you play. So each person gets these. There's one for every player colour. So you take your particular character. There are rings that you put on the bottom of your miniature, if you're not using the standee. The standee has standee bases in the same colour as these, and if you're the thing at the start, you use that card, and if you're human, again, you use these ones, and that's the one that goes onto your player board and is revealed if you're ever tested. And then we've got other pieces of equipment and things, things that are revealed that tell you where certain things are going to have to go in the game, like the dogs. They will be put into certain rooms at certain times. The first turn they all start in the kennel, and from turn 2 onwards the dogs start roaming around the Antarctic base that you're in, and you encounter them as you go. If you're in a room on your own with a dog, then you have to do a test to see whether that dog was an alien and has infected you, or vice versa. You can, if you are the alien, you can assimilate the dog if it's not already been assimilated to be an alien. But if there's 2 of you in a room or more, you can then remove that dog from the room and put them back in the kennel. One of the characters ignores the dogs totally anyway. That's his special ability. Each character has a special ability. And then these are your different cards that you will get during the game. There's repair and sabotage cards, so you'll get some of those dealt out at certain points in the game. And we've got some more here, some more sabotage, some more use cards. So basically these cards are the cards that you get dealt as a hand as players. I believe you get 3 cards each, and then at the start of the phase where you're trying to do certain actions, you move your character into a room that you want to go in. You give the leader a card from your hand, and then they're all put into a pile. You may not be able to use that card. The leader gets to distribute those cards and give actions to each of the people in the base. So you might give them a use card, a repair card, or a sabotage card, and they have to allocate those cards how they see fit. And depending on whether they're a human or that leader that turn might be an alien, they might start playing sort of tricks and sort of funny things on the party by dealing out cards to people that didn't want to sabotage something, but they've been given a card and they have to do some damage to a room or the helicopter or something, the radio again. So yeah, it's a nice mechanic, I think. And then the leader token will and potentially change each turn depending on what happens during the turn. But that's, as I say, a nice little mechanic where the leader distributes each action that somebody's going to go through each turn. We've got some cards here which are for the 1, 2 and 3 player sort of player count. So these come into effect only when you're playing those numbers. So this adds an extra element into the game if you've got a low player count. So as I say, playing solo or with 2 or 3 people, these will be used in that. And then this card, the final card we've got here for the minute, this goes on to the board, and depending again on the player count, we've got up to there's a 6 and a 7 and an 8 that goes onto the board, and depending on your dice roll, your weather dice roll, it will tell you to remove certain things from certain areas of the board. So your fuel, it will damage certain areas of the board as well, and the more players you've got, the worse that damage gets, because you've got more players to then sort of bring those things back up. So not only are you trying to find and get rid of the alien and stop it doing what it needs to do, you've got to keep the base fed with fuel for the generators. You've got to try and repair the radio. You've got to try and repair the snowcat. You've got to sort out the helicopter. Just as the film, you've got to try and make sure that you survive, because if this generator room runs out of fuel, it starts to deteriorate, and if it goes to a certain point, everyone then starts to potentially freeze to death, and you've only got so many turns to last before the alien wins the game. Because if the generator room is damaged beyond repair, obviously you can't have heat and light, and also if it runs out of fuel but isn't damaged, the whole place goes into darkness, and instead of giving the leader a card each turn, the person to your left takes a card out of your hand and is basically played blind, so everyone is pulling somebody else's card to use. So you may not want to play a particular card, but that's the card that your next in line has chosen to take out of your hand and put into the pile. So you'll get a completely more random set of cards for the leader to distribute to everybody to do the actions. So obviously only certain actions will help certain people in certain rooms, and if you get too many or too few of those actions, you're either going to not be able to do things that you want to do, or you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. So again, we'll come on to things. So we've got other things here. This is the basic dice, so we've got just a standard weather dice there, and as a little Kickstarter extra, there was a glow in the dark version, so you can obviously play this sort of in the dark if that particular sort of thing happens. These are nice little tokens, and these move across what is called the suspicion track. So every turn when things are played, your token will move up the suspicion track, and at certain points the person who's highest on the suspicion track is the person who gets tested to see if they are the thing or not, and then they're revealed whether they are the thing or human. These are those bases that I said to you about for the standee card. So again, these are all in player colour, so again you can use those instead of the miniatures if you wish. These three dice are only used for determining what actions are played or potentially played per model stroke miniature character in the 1 to 3 version. So you roll these instead of playing cards, and depending on what the symbols are, you then have to allocate them to a character on the board, and they have to do those particular actions. So you've got repair, use, you've got aliens. So it's quite a nice little mechanic, and that, as I said, just adds a little bit into the game when you've got only the 1 to 3 players. These are barrels of fuel. Again, this is a nice little Kickstarter upgrade. So these are the fuel tokens that go onto the board. You start with some in certain rooms, and then you have to keep refueling. But to do that, you have to send characters to the rooms each turn to do these things. So obviously, when they're doing that, they can't go around to other rooms, which gives them different benefits. You can leave it if you've filled it up, you know, because it will use so many of these per turn, but that depends on the weather dice. So you could lose one of those a turn, you could lose 3 of those, and if you can't pay them, it starts to get damaged. We've got some little cans of fuel there, which are flamethrower refuel tokens, and we've got 4 dog miniatures, which again replaced tokens in the game as part of a stretch goal, I believe. And again, instead of a sort of cardboard token, we've got a little mini helicopter miniature there, and that moves across the track each turn. And the dog miniatures are quite nice. I'm going to try and hopefully paint these all up, including the character miniatures, which we'll get onto in a minute. These are the food tokens. Again, these were upgrades from little cardboard tokens, so they're little sort of tins of, should be spam, but is spelled SPM. And then replacing some of the tokens that were in the cardboard things. Again, these were nice little upgrades that were done as a stretch goal, I believe, for donating things like fires in certain rooms or areas of the base. So that is the sort of base game box, and as I say, we've got all of those bits and pieces. What we'll quickly have a look at before we get onto the miniatures is the game board itself. Now, it is quite chunky and quite big, but we will try and spread this out. So I have opened it up actually the right way round, which is quite fortuitous. So as you can see, it's quite a big board. This is the weather station where you roll the dice and you place it on there, and it tells you how many of each of things are taken off the board because of the weather situation. So you've got sunny, cloudy and stormy. Obviously stormy is the worst. Sunny is the best thing because it then takes less off. And then it also tells you how to move things, and like the helicopter, and obviously you've got the helicopter track down the bottom of the board here. So this is the game board, which is quite adequate. Lovely board, I must admit. This is the first time that I've taken it out and sort of spread it out unfolded. Lovely and colourful, nice board. But I did go the extra mile and I bought the neoprene mat. So as you can see, it is quite a bit bigger. I'll just fold that back. It is quite a bit longer, so you've got a bit more space to put some of the card decks and things than you have on the actual cardboard board, because that doesn't have the space for the decks, whereas this does. So I will sort of turn that round and that will show you the same direction. I wasn't as lucky as I was with undoing the board as I was with this. So again, you've got your weather station thing here. You still put over that card if you need to. But you've got spaces down the sides here for your cards. You've got the track up here, which is your suspicion level track. And you place certain tokens here, and then as your suspicion goes up, depending on what actions you get given in the game, or roll if you're using those dice in a 1 to 3 player game, your coloured discs all start here and start moving up this track, and then when you hit certain points, certain things will happen. And there is the alien thing that's coming down this way. But yeah, that's nicely done. I think that's equally as nice, although I think maybe the board is slightly clearer print than the neoprene mat, but I must admit I will use the neoprene mat probably more than the game board, simply because of the space, and it tells you where to put things, including your discard piles of cards and bits and pieces. So I will be using that more often, I would think, than the standard game board. But as I say, it depends on your table space that you have as well. So let's get into having a look at some of the miniatures. So we've got 4 nice boxes of miniatures here. We'll start with the Norwegians. Now obviously this is a set of miniatures from the prequel, made only a few years ago, but as you can see, they are very nicely detailed. They are nice and chunky miniatures as well, so well proportioned, and sit nicely in the trays. We've even got an extra alien miniature in there, and then you've got new character decks, and I believe there are so many of those because they are language independent. So we've got cards for different countries there, I believe. I haven't opened them and had an actual look through those, but I believe that that's what that is and why there are so many. These are the aliens, and again, very nice set of miniatures, in various states as they were in the film. So we've got one here that was trying to assimilate the person, if you remember, when they were being when they were in the sort of like store cupboard. It attacked one of the guys and assimilated him while he was in there. And then one of the most iconic ones, I think, is when the head dropped off and turned into the spider. So I think these are going to be very nice to paint up, and we've even got a dog that is being assimilated. So again, nice little miniatures, very well done. We've got some humans. We'll just leave that one till last. This is Human Miniature Set 2. So these are the additional characters that weren't in the first box, I believe. So we've got an additional 4, and again a pack of cards there which you can see obviously aren't English at the back but are at the front. So again, I believe that that's what that is, just various languages, different languages for people, so that they didn't have to sort of sort them out into individual packs. So quite understand why they've done that, but again, lovely miniatures. And these are the bases that you will put on depending on which miniature you pick and what colour you are. I don't think they are anything specific. You just pick a colour and put that on your miniature, and then you take the corresponding alien and human card to say and denote which you are. But these are excellent. Now, if as I said earlier, the insert wasn't great, these are absolutely fantastic, and each one of these miniatures look exactly like the actor stroke character from the original film. So whoever has sculpted these has done an absolutely fantastic job, and if you've seen the original film, you will instantly know who they are without even having to tell. You know, you've got Kurt Russell as Macready, you've got Gary, you've got Cooper, you've got Knowles, you've got the Doc, you know, you've got Childs, you've got all sorts of people, and they, as I say, they are really, really good quality, and they look exactly like the people in the film, which, as I say, whoever's done the sculpting has done a fantastic job at that and getting the faces to be absolutely bang on. So, you know, full kudos to whoever did that sculpting. So lastly, we'll have a quick look and flick through the rule book. It is quite a chunky rule book, as you can see. 27 pages. So obviously at the start you get your usual sort of a bit of a blurb about what the thing is, the board game, and the designer's notes. You get a full inventory of what you should get in the box. Obviously this shows the standees. It does give you the rescue helicopter token and the dogs shown as actual miniatures, and then you've got your upgraded tokens here because that went into everything because that was a stretch goal, so everybody got those. And then depending on what level, I believe you got the game miniatures. It then tells you quite extensively on these 2 pages. There is quite a bit of setup to do. So as you can see, they show here the normal sort of cardboard board with everything around the edge, but on the neoprene mat there is a place for all of these cards and things to go. So that is a bit of a bonus, but that's quite an extensive setup. And then you get into the phases in detail. So you've got to roll for your weather, you've got your base maintenance and rescue helicopter advancement. You only do, as I said, phase 3 if there is a revealed alien. You draw your action cards, you go to the leisure room and accusations. You do any tests only if at least one character has the opportunity to perform a test. So you have to be in the laboratory and you have to be able to do things like that on the board to be able to perform a test and try and see if somebody is an alien. You do food consumption, so if somebody is in the kitchen you use up 2. If Knowles is in the kitchen you only use 1 food a turn. If nobody's in there you lose 4 food every turn that nobody is in there at the point of this phase. And then you do dog movement and lead change as the last phase, phase 8, and then you reset, you all go back to the leisure room and you start your next turn. So you then, it gets into explanations of each of the rooms, the boiler room, the generator room, the helicopter. You get descriptions on how to resolve encounters depending on whether it's one person and a dog, more than one person and a dog, and more than one person but no additional sort of dogs and things in there, and you then will have to do certain things to see whether or not you're assimilated or will be assimilated. And then you've got your contagion checks, you've got how to execute your character actions. There is a example of play, so you've got different action cards, so this goes through 3 or 4 action cards in a sequence. Then you've got your leisure room and accusations, you've got tests, you expose yourself as an alien if that is what happens. You've got your food consumption, so it'll give you a little bit there on how to do that. Your dog movements and leader changes, and then you've got optional rules for the kennels, because obviously the dogs will start there and then will start roaming around, as I said earlier, but you can move them back into the kennel if there's more than one human in a room with a dog. And then you've got your character abilities, so each of those characters that I showed you on the standees and or miniatures, that just gives you the thing about their abilities, but they're all on their character cards as well, so you'll have that. If that's the character you're playing, you'll know that you won't have to go back to the rule book every time. You've got your weapons and items, which obviously you will get by going to certain rooms and you'll pick up different things. So you can do a test by going to the laboratory with the bloods, or as again in the film, you can use wire and a flamethrower to do a test to try and reveal if somebody is human or an alien. So they've really thought about it. They've captured the essence of the movie quite well, I think. And then you've got location sort of descriptions and what actions you can do in those locations. So you've got all of those right up to the weather station, the warehouse and everything. You've got rules for playing 1 to 3 players, which is where those dice and those extra cards come in. And you've got different game overviews for the 1 to 3 players. So it is slightly different when you're playing 1 to 3, because you don't do cards for given to the leader. They are done on dice rolls, so the leader is a little bit less likely, by the look of things and watching a video, to be able to sabotage things because they're rolling dice, and it's not where they're handed out to certain people, but they then get to allocate those dice to certain people, so they could still mess up the plans and stop people from doing certain things or make them do certain things. And then obviously you've got at the back the credits and sort of thank yous to people who helped out get the game to its published state. So there you go, that's the unboxing of the thing. Looking forward to getting to the table with this in the coming weeks. I'm going to try and have a couple of playthroughs on the sort of solo mode, just to get a grasp of how the rounds really sort of work, and moving characters and doing tests and that sort of thing, and moving tokens on the board. So once I've done that, I'll get this to the table with a larger group and see what happens. It is a sort of co-op stroke one against many, but obviously you start with one, and then gradually as the game goes on you can end up with 2, 3, 4, or you could end up in a reverse of fortunes where only one person is left as a human and everybody else is an alien trying to obviously get off the base in the helicopter, which obviously you're trying to get the rescue helicopter to come and get you, and to do that you've got to repair the radio room, which starts with a load of damage tokens. So again, you have to send people there and perform certain repair actions or whatever with cards. And yeah, very thematic, very close to the movie by all intents and purposes, and looking at the rule book, what they've done with the cards, what they've done with the board, and the gameplay as a whole, and obviously kept with all of the characters, and even introduced the Norwegian Outpost variant. I haven't got the Norwegian Outpost add-on thing. I did get the miniatures, but not the actual sort of like expansion. I may pick that up at a later date, but to me, this I think is going to be a nice game for everybody to sit down and sort of assess and see who is the alien. And until we get to another one of these unboxings or playthrough videos, we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.